All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our mini points to ponder series. Today's series is entitled End of the Year Tips for Music Educators, and I'm so honored to be joined by the legend himself, Dr. Kevin Davenport, who will be serving as my guest panelist today. So if you're joining us on Zoom, if you're joining us on Facebook, we welcome you to this mini session. We promise we won't keep you long, but these are very important tips to help us push through to the finish line and prepare to end this year, take summer break, and get ready for next year. So Dr. Davenport, welcome to our session. And if you could, please tell everyone just a little bit about yourself.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dr. Kevin Davenport. I am currently, I currently hold 3 positions at Simmons College of Kentucky. I am the Director of Bands, the Chair of the Music Department, and recently promoted to the Associate Vice President of Recruitment Initiatives. So they have me very, very busy here. My background is I'm originally from Portsmouth, Virginia. I spent 10 years as band director at IC Norcom High School in Portsmouth, Virginia. I'm a graduate, 3-time graduate of Tennessee State University. I got my bachelor's, my specialist, and my doctorate degree from there, and got my master's from Hampton University in music education as well. I'm the author of the book, Practical Techniques for Building the High School Marching Band, which you can get from Amazon still. So I've been in the field now for 37 years. I cannot believe I said that, but yeah, I've been around for 37 years doing music. I've done everything from 5th grade through graduate school. So my pride and joy now at this point is teaching band directors how to more efficiently manage band programs.
Indeed. Thank you. Thank you. Today's session comes as a result of a survey response. I always do a survey at the end of my webinars. Usually my longer webinars, I'll do a survey and say, tell us how we did, and then tell us some topics that you wish we would address in our series. And this was one of those topics, like, what do we do at the end of the year? Or I always feel so lost after festival, after spring concerts, and I just don't want to feel like I'm just going through the motions or just giving busy work or just pulling out the TV towards the end of the year. So I talked with Dr. Davenport, and he did not hesitate to jump on this initiative and say, yes, sure, I would love to come on and talk about some tips that can help us become more efficient as we finish out the year and finish strong instead of just fizzling out and just pushing through to the end with the same old techniques. So we're going to jump right into it. Thinking first, just, we finish our spring concert in a typical year. And of course, we'll be talking about some things this year that are specific to COVID changes. But what are some things that directors should be considering right now? We're in the month of May. Most of us have a few weeks left, depending on if we're in the South or out West. And some of us have until like the 1st or 2nd week in June. What should we be doing right now to finish our school year?
Let me approach that 2 different ways, because we want to approach on a normal year, on a normal time, what you should be doing and how that relates to what you've been doing in this unusual situation. I think the point that gets missed generally in this time of year, or does not get done and causes us to be stifled the following year, is we don't do a full program assessment. See, now is the time of year for you to evaluate all aspects of your program. And from my high school experience, let me tell you what I would be doing right about now. Starting right after spring concert, usually. That's usually that spot where things change over. Instead of trying to stay, deeply involved in band battles and all of that, take a step back. Figure out what it is that you did well this year and what needed to be improved. Evaluate what seniors you have graduating and how that affects your overall program. Because we know sometimes we have those senior classes that once they go, we wonder how we're going to keep going with the program. Look at your instrumentation returning. And what I mean by that, and this is something that you really have to be detailed about. Look at your instrumentation for this past year. Subtract your senior class. Then subtract those people that you know are on the fringes of not coming back to your program next year. And then evaluate your instrumentation. And based on that evaluation, you may want to do some instrument switching to balance out your band internally. And see, this I used to run into a lot of band directors that complained about their instrumentation. And I'd always ask the same question, well, what did you do about it last April? If you know you're only going to have one trombone left, but you got 22 clarinets, are you trying to see if someone in your band will switch to trombone while you have time to at least have a few months to teach them, to prepare them to play it? See, right now, my after school program would be basically a beginner's band for people that switched instruments. I'd have several days a week. The only people that stayed back are people that are going to a new instrument in the fall. So they would be coming in and actually having class, trying to get, used to that new instrument. Where what I was doing was preparing for what I know because I evaluated, okay? And that gets overlooked in a lot of programs. A lot of band directors just take what's coming and then wonder why their instrumentation's off. But that you need to be doing a full evaluation there. What should be happening in your classrooms now are fundamentals. I mean, and this is in a regular year, now's the time in your class to be doing sight reading. I mean, especially if you get classes during the day and you actually have your students during class, every time they come in, have a different new piece of music on the stand, sight read something new every day, build up their reading skills, work on their tone, work on intonation, teach them how to get in tune, force them out of tune, and make them have to come back into. And normally what I would do is particularly try to teach them what out of tune sound like. And we expect our band to get in tune, but we never taught them what out of tune sounds like. So I would do stuff like take a clarinet, pull the barrel all the way out to the end, have somebody else tune to the tuner and have them play together and ask the band, well, what does that sound like? Well, that's way out of tune. All right, now work to get in tune. And you all tell me when they get there. See, now they're using their ears and learning how to become better in tune. So work on intonation, work on tone, work on reading, work on scales. Again, that should be something that's happening all year. But now's the time of year where you've got enough downtime to really spend time doing that kind of fundamental work and do it in light of preparing for the fall. Don't do it just as busy work to get through the end of the year. You need to be doing it as preparation to be better in the fall. The important thing to do, though, is to be honest with yourself about where your band is. You can, get outside people to think you're the greatest thing since sliced bread. But if you're a music educator, you know where the weaknesses are in your program. And you should be working to fix them in this time. Now, this particular year is different. We're coming out of a pandemic, and you're going to run into some issues that you don't even see coming yet. Because, here's the shocker. Some of you are going to be running into students that have not played an instrument in a year. Well, think of it this way. If a person walked into a weight room and had not picked up weights for a year, would you take them to the 100-pound weights, or would you start them on the 5s? And what we've got to be prepared to do is to start our kids with the basics. And this upcoming year, more than any year I've seen, we're going to see, and I don't mean to say this to slight anyone, we're going to see the difference between band directors and music educators, because you're going to have to teach now. Because that 8th grade class that you expected to come in playing on a certain level may still come in playing like they did at the beginning of their 7th grade year. So they don't have the skill set that you're used to see coming into your high school program. If you got an advanced concert band in your high school, where you're used to getting your freshman and sophomore bands to feed into your top group, well, they're not prepared to play on the level that you're used to your top group playing on. So now you're going to have to teach. And once again, you're teaching from the standpoint of evaluating your program. You now have to have them in class. I'd put every single one of them in a fundamental book. I mean, from beginning, but you might want to take all your ninth graders or your incoming ninth graders or current ninth graders, which you may not have even seen all year, put them back in the beginning book. Make them play through the beginning book between now and the end of the school year, just so you can see where their skill levels really are, so you can get them to start building an embouchure, which they're gone. I mean, that's a problem now. You cannot have them come into band camp and expect them to come in blowing and playing high notes. No, now you have to spend that time getting their armatures back in shape, getting their tones back in shape, finding out ways of improving their skill level beyond what you would normally have to do. I come from an area of Virginia where we were big proponents of summer band programs. That was really the secret. Anybody that's read my book or seen that band on the front page of my book, and wonder how I ended up with a 200-piece band in a school of 600. It was summer band programs where we were teaching kids from 5th grade all the way through 9th grade every summer. So when they hit high school, number one, being in the band was a natural part of them. Just like being an athlete in high school, band was a culture. But number two, my freshmen came in playing on a grade 4 level, because I had been teaching them all that time to get them to where I needed them to be. So we got to spend time on fundamentals. We got to spend time now switching whoever you need to switch to get your balance. You got to spend time evaluating your entire program to figure out how to set it up, and spend time sight reading. That's really important. So I'll stop there right now.
That's all great stuff, all great stuff. And a lot of what we're saying, and I know I'll be doing a separate segment on this mini segment for our vocal educators to be more specific, but some of what Dr. Davenport said can generalize to our vocal, our general music, our strings teachers as well, our guitar, our mariachi teachers that are out there, because we have a lot of mariachi groups out here on the West Coast, is going back to those basics, going back to those fundamentals. Use this time now, even in a choir, to teach your students, basic music theory fundamentals, how to actually read the music that they're singing, how to sight sing. Have sight reading activities for your choir as well, and have them sight sing something new every day in a variety of different genres and a variety of different languages, so they're getting used to this type of thing. It will strengthen your preparation for the next year. It'll also let you know too, especially with teenagers and voices changing, it'll let you know too where you might need to move and play some people and fill in some gaps as you go into the next school year. Dr. Davenport, we've talked about things we can do with our students and things we can do with our classrooms as far as changing students around, making sure we have proper instrumentation. I love what you said about assessing and evaluating your program. A lot of times we definitely skip over that self-reflection. We're still holding on to the glory days of what we had. We had a great season 2 years ago, and those kids are long gone. So when we're planning for next year, outside of switching students around and assessing the program from a musician and strength standpoint, what are some things we need to consider when planning our calendar? Oftentimes we'll wait until 2 weeks before teachers return in August to plan for the fall. We don't usually plan for the whole year in advance outside of our PLC or our department meetings. What are some things we need to do logistically this time of year to make sure that we're adequately prepared and we have the conditions for success going into next year?
And that also goes back to evaluating your program. Although we've talked about evaluating from the standpoint of playing, we also need to talk about evaluation from the standpoint of management. Now's the time to decide what major performances are you going to do in the fall. Now, to space them out properly, to have time to prepare for them, to have time to raise money to do them. If you know you've got a big performance somewhere out of state in the fall, well, you can start your fundraisers now, preparing for that. Another important part of that is you want to have focused things for the fall that you can give your band parents right now. Because I'm going to say this, and I'm probably going to get some blowback. If you do not have a plan for the fall for your band parents right now, now's the time where they'll run out on a tangent and want to do things to try to control you. You should be walking into your band parents meeting and saying, these are the things we're going to do in the fall, and this is what I need you working on. So they have the summer to work on them. So they're busy trying to do things to support you. idle hands are the devil's workshop. And that is big time in a band parents organization. You have to always have a plan. You have to always have a vision. And this is the other thing you can't skip. What are you going to do for yourself to become a better educator? What are you reading to get better at those places that you know you're weak? What professional workshops are you going to? You know, you got to be working towards self-improvement for the sake of improving your band. You've always got to find something to improve on. You know, I run into a lot of band directors that would love to have a grade 5, grade 6 concert band. That's all well and good, but would you know how to conduct one? Would you know how to select music for a group of that level? You know, your instrumentation really plays into what music you choose. You've got to understand that. How are your conducting skills? Now, I didn't say directing skills, conducting skills. And if you have weaknesses there, find yourself a workshop over the summer online. I mean, I wish I'd have had YouTube coming up, because there's so much free information there that you could be studying and going through and improving yourself. The only way you're going to improve your program is improve yourself. Your band's never going to be any better than your skill level allows them to be. And once again, in that evaluation, you got to evaluate yourself. What instrument is it that you can't teach well? Which one don't you know the fingerings for? Those are the kind of things you should be doing now too. It's just, you know, sharpening your skills so you can be a better teacher for your program. And that's very, very important in this time of year.
Indeed. I definitely agree with you, but I would even go one step further, not just yourself, but all of you who have volunteers or band staff that you have. What are you doing to strengthen them? And if you had some challenges with some people on your band staff this year, what are you doing to evaluate them as you know, along with assessing your program? Have you called them into a meeting? A lot of the times it's not that they're intentionally being defiant, is that you have not clearly identified the vision you have for your program, the expectations and goals you have for your staff and your supporters, whether they're volunteer or whether they're being paid for their position. They still have a right to know what your vision is and what your expectations are. A lot of the times they're not performing to your expectations because they simply do not know that. You have not communicated that with them effectively. So I encourage you to do that, but also send them out for enrichment as well. If your auxiliary coordinators are teaching your squads based on what they knew when they were a member of the squad, and they have not sought out advanced training or sought out the free workshops that are offered across the country, the paid workshops that are offered across the country, if they have not watched videos themselves, I would encourage them to do that. Your drum major coordinators, your percussion coordinators, all of your parents or your former students who come back to help, that's all well and good. But if they're only teaching based upon what they played when they were in your band program and they have not elevated to that next level, this is the time now to offer them professional development yourself, or to reach across the line to other teachers in your district or other educators in your network. You know, this is a small fraternity of educators. Reach out, and those who are strong in those fields, ask them to come in and do a workshop for your faculty, for your staff, your band staff, or your support team. And in return, you offer a similar service to them, whether it's a master class. Help each other. Again, like someone said on Facebook earlier, iron sharpens iron. So if you have a community of educators that you're bonded with, use this time now to form that camaraderie and actually grow together, share resources, help each other's programs out. Yes, you know, it's all about business on the field, but it should be about networking off of that field. It should be about helping each other to climb, and not continuing to have this crabs in a barrel mentality, or if they know more than me, they're going to try to outdo me next year. You want them to try to outdo you, because in the end, it's going to benefit all of our students. You want everyone to elevate. It's no fun constantly beating up on other programs. It's no fun constantly seeing programs in disarray, especially in your district that's supposed to feed into you, if you're not taking the time to feed into them. So those are some things I would suggest, as well as building your staff as well, building upon that and having everyone grow together. Set those expectations. And if they're not willing to comply with those expectations, then again, as you're assessing your program, see where you need to trim the fat. See where you need to pull in some other resources. There may be a teacher in your school right now that may have been an all-star twirler, Reach out to those in your school. You'll never know who you have right there under your nose that could benefit your program and be a better support for you. I also agree with what Dr. Davenport said about your parent organizations, making sure that you communicate early and often with them, and make sure too that they understand your vision for the program, your expectations for their booster organization, how they're to supplement, not take over your program, but how they can be a benefit to you and what their role and what their responsibilities are to you and your students. So I definitely appreciate you for that.
Yeah, so much what you just said was, it goes back to one thing, and that's you having a vision for your program and making sure everyone is toeing in the same direction. And they can't do that if you are not expressing what your standards, what your vision is. That should be going out every day. And like I said, this time of year, it's time to refine that idea, because you may see there were some things that went on the previous year that you don't want to happen again. Well, now it's time to fix it. If you do have to get into a situation where you need to replace a coordinator, now's the time to do it. Because as you bring in a new person, now you have time for your auxiliaries to get used to a new coordinator without having a performance right in their face. So we have to do that. Another thing I want to mention too is, now's the time to prepare your rising seniors for auditions. Put etudes in front, put solos in front of them right now, where they have time during the summer where you're not all out into performance mode, to really start working up those audition pieces now. Get them under their fingers now. You know, you can go out and audition for a scholarship for a college program in August and September. That doesn't have to wait till December and January. Why not be prepared to do that before school starts back up? Get that behind you, get scholarships in place, so they don't have to worry about that. And they've got all summer to prepare that now.
Indeed, because 400 Degrees and Cold Hearted Snake and ESPN are not audition pieces. So I think we start now, you know, and we really show, you know, and again, attitude reflect leadership. Our students don't know unless we share this information with them. Show them, you know, what a quality audition looks like. Demonstrate what an audition looks like. You know, as educators, we're always supposed to stay sharp on our crafts anyway. Show them how to approach recording a video, how they're supposed to clearly enunciate their names on the video, tell their instrument, their hometown, what their intended major is. So have them go through a mock audition and demonstrate the components they should have on a video audition, and then demonstrate the proper etiquette for going to an in-person audition as well. Show them the different types of repertoire they can choose from, what's considered lyrical, what's considered technical. Then define those terms. Define what lyrical is and what adjudicators are looking for. Define what technical is, and then let them know characteristic pieces for their instrument that are a good display of their skills to get into the program. Okay, so I definitely agree. You know, get that that music in front of them early, and you know, start that communication early with preparing properly for auditions. Make sure they know their skills. You know, make sure they know, you know, their rudiments and things like that, and not that they're trying to push and try to learn all this during the fall, during marching season, with their other classes tapped on top of that, and then we're telling them stuff. Oh, by the way, you need to be ready to audition in 2 weeks because such and such university is coming, or we want to take you to this university. So it's so important, you know, that we do this early and often. Take every advantage and every opportunity possible. Give our students every chance they can have to be successful. So I definitely appreciate you for that. We're going to get ready to wrap up on the tail end of this. I told everyone this is a mini webinar series, my Points to Ponder series, just little tidbits of information to get you through many professional development sessions. Dr. Davenport, before I ask my final question, what is the name of your book again?
The name of my book is Practical Techniques for Building the High School Marching Band.
Practical Techniques for Building the High School Marching Band. For those of you who do not have that book, I highly encourage you to get it. There are so many books out here promoting bands and building good bands and promoting just the welfare of the craft. So I definitely encourage this to be a book in your library if you're a music educator. I encourage you to purchase a copy. Okay, so it's good to borrow a copy and read it, but you need this book in your arsenal, in your toolbox. So again, thank you for that. Dr. Davenport, are there any final words as we close out when it comes to end of the year tips for educators and how to prepare to close out this year and prepare for next school year?
My final word would be do everything for excellence. We have to constantly evaluate to get better. We don't get better in a silo. And the point I wanted to get across that I meant to is, a lot of band directors would love to have private instructors for your top groups. The fastest way is exactly what Ms. Brock said was make an exchange with other directors in your area. Get rid of that animosity and utilize each other on different instruments to provide private lessons. You provide private lessons on your major instrument for them. They provide lessons for your students for you. Everybody grows. The only way we're going to grow is if we're all growing together. We're not going to grow by tearing each other down. We have to be working together to, first of all, have our students appreciate each other across programs, because sooner or later they're going to be in college bands together. They're not going to stay in that silo. But secondly, we need to be growing closer together in a brotherhood to try to raise our craft, to be better music educators. And we need to always consider ourselves music educators and not band directors. That's the important thing. We are to educate these students.
Indeed. Thank you so much. And I would encourage everyone, as you wrap up the year, I know you want to take the time, it's been a tough year because of COVID. Everyone's racing to the end of the school year. We're ready for summer break, but do your research, do your homework over the break. Know what's happening in your district, know what's happening in your state as far as competitions, deadlines, professional development sessions, opportunities for guest clinicians to come in, know what's happening in your local area, know what's happening nationwide, and get involved. Know what's on those state adjudication lists ahead of time. I saw someone mention that in the chat, so I definitely wanted to bring that up to let you know that I saw your message. But yeah, definitely get to know what's on those lists ahead of time. Not knowing is not an excuse. A lot of times your students don't get an opportunity to audition for all state and all district, not because they didn't want to, because you gave them the information at the last minute or not at all, because you doubted your product or you took for granted the importance of early communication. So please make sure that you do your research over the break, learn as much as you can, and at least when you have all the information, then you can discern what's best for your group and what's not. But just not knowing is not an excuse. So again, I would like to thank you for tuning in for this brief webinar entitled End of the Year Tips for Music Educators. Please stay tuned. We have several webinars coming up through my Points to Ponder series for the month of May. I would also encourage you to tune in. I'm hosting a summer music education series. It is a set of courses run just like summer school for either incoming freshman music majors who are not quite ready to handle the rigors of introductory music theory or music history, or just being able to handle what it takes the first year as a music major. So I encourage you to encourage any incoming freshmen to look into this course and to take that fundamentals course. It is also for those who may have entered their freshman year this year after having a year not on their instrument or having an interrupted year due to COVID. And so they may have been deficient coming into their programs and may have struggled this year through music theory, music history, intro to music ed, or any other applied lesson or pedagogy course. This resource is for them as well. I encourage you to sign up for that. I'm also offering a Praxis Core boot camp targeting reading, writing, and math portions of the exam. I have some guest instructors coming in to help with that. And I'm offering the Praxis Music Exam boot camps. They're 2-session boot camps for the 5113 Music Content Knowledge Test and the 5114 Music Content and Instruction Test. So if you are trying to pass Praxis, if you know someone trying to pass Praxis, whether it's Praxis Core or Praxis 2, I encourage you to look at the flyer on my page and to follow that link to register. Please understand that I will get back with you with more details within 48 hours of you completing the registration form. But these are courses. These are not just workshops. This is a summer school course run in 2 sessions. Session 1, June 1st through June 30th. For those who want a little bit more time to break between spring semester and summer school, Session 2 is June 15th through July 15th. Please sign up. This information has been sent out to every HBCU in the nation. But it's not just for HBCUs, it's for any college student, any college and university. Yes, I specifically sent this out to HBCUs trying to encourage more students to get this information. But this information has been sent out nationwide. I encourage you to look at the flyer on my page. I will post it again after this live, but please sign up. This summer music education series also offers professional development that Dr. Davenport was talking about for educators, staff, and administrators. So there will be a clinic teaching administrators how to hire music educators on the K through 12 level and not use the same questionnaire they use for math teachers, science teachers, and PE teachers. It teaches them how to cultivate questions that are relevant to our actual field so that they can hire the best candidate and so that we can get the best position that we're looking for. So I encourage you to stay tuned. Follow me on my website, www.pmconcepts.org. Follow me on Facebook and Instagram at Prodigious Music Concepts, and subscribe to my channel on YouTube, PMC Professional Development Webinars. Again, thank you to my guests here on Zoom. Thank you to those who tuned in on Facebook. And please stay tuned for future Points to Ponder series. Once again, Dr. Davenport, I thank you so much for joining me and for imparting your wisdom and knowledge on our guests today.
Great to be here.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.